August 15th, 1947, 2:17 a.m. The counting house on 133rd Street exploded into flames. Not a gas leak, not an accident. Arson, pure, calculated arson. $250,000 in numbers cash, Harlem's lifeblood, turned to ash in under 4 minutes. Madame Stephanie St. Clair, the queen of policy banks, stood in her silk nightgown watching 25 years of empire burn. Her runners scrambled, trying to save ledgers. Fire trucks screamed down Lenox Avenue, and pinned to her front door, untouched by flames, was a note written in blood-red ink. The Queen's throne burns next. Pay the debt or join the ashes. J. Below it, a crude drawing of a straight razor. Stephanie crumpled the note in her fist, her jaw tight, eyes like steel. She knew who sent it. She knew what he wanted. And she knew there was only one man in all of Harlem who could stop what was coming. So, she whispered 2 words into the smoke-filled night. Call Bumpy. What nobody knew, not the firefighters, not the crowd gathering, not even the man who set the fire, was that Bumpy Johnson had been expecting this. And what he did in the next 72 hours wouldn't just save the Queen. It would prove that betrayal in Harlem doesn't end with death. It ends with a scar that lasts forever. This is the story of the night Bumpy Johnson taught a protégé that debts aren't paid with fire. They're carved into your face. To understand that fire, you need to understand Harlem in 1947. World War II was over. Black soldiers came home wearing uniforms they'd earned fighting fascism in Europe, only to find the same racism waiting for them in Harlem. Jobs were scarce. Housing was worse. Slumlords charged double rent for half the space. The NYPD treated black neighborhoods like occupied territory, and in that pressure cooker, people gambled. The numbers racket, illegal lottery, was hope. You could bet a nickel and win $50. For folks making $7 a week, that nickel wasn't gambling. It was survival. And the woman who controlled that hope, who'd built the numbers empire from nothing, was Madame Stephanie St. Clair, Caribbean immigrant, self-educated, fearless. In the 1930s, she took out full-page ads in the Amsterdam News calling corrupt white cops foreign invaders. She sued the NYPD. She fought Dutch Schultz's mob when they tried to muscle into Harlem and won. By 1947, she was 52 years old, wealthy, respected, and tired. Cancer rumors circulated. She wanted to retire clean, pass the throne to someone she trusted. That someone was supposed to be Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy had been her enforcer since 1932. 41 years old now, educated himself in prison reading Shakespeare and military strategy, known for being smarter than he was violent. When Dutch Schultz sent 12 men to kill him in a basement in 1933, Bumpy walked out alone. When white mobsters tried to take Harlem's policy banks, Bumpy made them disappear. Not always into graves, sometimes just into fear. He was the unofficial king of Harlem, and everybody knew it. But there was a third player in this story, a man Bumpy had trained, a man Stephanie had trusted. His name was James Jr. Reyes. Jr. was 6'2", sharp as a blade, dressed in Italian suits that cost more than most Harlem families made in a month. In 1938, Bumpy had saved Jr.'s life in a warehouse fight with Dutch Schultz's crew, slit an attacker's throat before he could gut the kid. Jr. became Bumpy's protégé. Loyal, hungry, smart. When Bumpy got arrested in 1945 on a minor weapons charge and did 8 months, Stephanie gave Jr. control of her Bronx policy banks. Keep things running, protect the territory, send the profits back. For 2 years, Jr. did exactly that, and then the money stopped coming. The reports stopped. And when Bumpy got out in early 1947 and asked questions, Junior had an answer ready. The Italians, they've been pressuring us. I had to pay tribute to keep the banks open. It cost everything. It was a lie. What Junior had actually done was make a deal with Tommy Lucchese's family. He'd given them maps of Stephanie's Manhattan operations, told them which cops were on her payroll, revealed where the counting houses kept cash. In exchange, the Italians let Junior keep the Bronx banks for himself and promised him Manhattan once Stephanie was out of the picture. All Junior had to do was force her out, and fire was the cheapest weapon. 3:45 a.m., August 15th. Stephanie St. Clair's apartment above the burned counting house. The air still smelled like smoke. Ledgers were scattered across her dining table, salvaged scraps of her empire. She sat in a high-backed chair, still in her nightgown, fingers steepled, staring at nothing. A knock, 3 quick raps. Stephanie didn't move. "It's open." The door swung in. Bumpy Johnson stepped inside, fedora low, gray suit buttoned, shoes polished despite the hour. His eyes scanned the room, exits, windows, shadows. Old habit. He'd been ambushed too many times to walk into any room blind. He looked at Stephanie. No greeting, no small talk. "Who?" Stephanie slid the crumpled note across the table. Bumpy picked it up, smoothed it, read it twice. His jaw tightened. The only sign of emotion. "Junior." Stephanie nodded. "He says I owe him $100,000 for protecting the Bronx banks while you were away. Says if I don't pay, he'll burn everything I own until there's nothing left to retire with." Bumpy folded the note carefully, slipped it into his jacket pocket. "How much did he actually send you while I was gone?" $12,000, over 2 years. The banks should have cleared $300,000 minimum. Bumpy's eyes went cold. Not angry. Colder than anger. Calculating. "Where's he hold court now?" "St. Nick's Arena. Tomorrow night. He's throwing me a retirement party. 400 people invited. Politicians, hustlers, jazz players. He wants to make a spectacle. Wants me to sign the Manhattan banks over to him in front of everyone. Make it look legitimate." Bumpy walked to the window, looked down at the burned-out shell of the counting house. Fire trucks were gone now, just ash and steam. "He thinks you're weak. He thinks I'm old. Same thing to men like him." Bumpy turned back. "You want him dead?" Stephanie was quiet for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "I want him marked. I want every person in Harlem to know what happens when you betray the Queen. I want his face to carry the story for the rest of his life." Bumpy smiled for the first time that morning. Thin, dangerous. "Then we'll give him a retirement party he'll never forget." August 16th, 11:20 a.m. 125th Street Policy Bank. Junior Reyes walked in like he owned the place, because in his mind, he did. Cream-colored suit, gold rings on 3 fingers, diamond-studded watch catching sunlight through the windows. 6 men flanked him, bodyguards, all carrying, all loyal to the money Junior paid them with Stephanie's stolen profits. The bank manager, an older man named Claude, stood behind the counter. His hands shook slightly as Junior approached. "Morning, Claude. I'm here for the week's take." Claude hesitated. "Mr. Reyes, Madame St. Clair hasn't authorized—" Junior slammed his hand on the counter. The sound cracked through the small room. "Madame St. Clair doesn't run these banks anymore. I do. Now give me the money before I decide you're part of the old regime." Claude swallowed hard, opened the safe, pulled out 3 thick envelopes. Junior took them without counting, tucked them inside his jacket. He looked around the room, customers frozen mid-transaction, runners pretending not to watch. "Y'all heard the Queen's retiring, right? Passing the torch?" He grinned, gold teeth flashing. "Well, the torch is mine now. Anyone got a problem with that?" Silence. Junior laughed. "That's what I thought." He turned to leave, bodyguards forming a wall around him, and that's when he saw Bumpy Johnson, sitting in the corner booth, cup of coffee steaming in front of him, newspaper folded beside it. Bumpy wasn't looking at Junior. He was looking at his coffee, completely calm, like he was just another customer on a Tuesday morning. But everyone in that bank knew better. Junior froze. His bodyguards' hands moved toward their waistbands. Bumpy still didn't look up. He took a slow sip of coffee. Then, without lifting his eyes from the cup, he spoke. His voice was quiet, conversational, but it carried. "You burned her house." Junior tried to smile, tried to play it off. "I don't know what you're talking about, Bumpy. That was an accident. Faulty wiring, probably. You pinned a note to her door. Bumpy, listen," with a razor drawing on it. Now Bumpy looked up, and his eyes were empty. Not angry, empty, which was worse. Junior's smile died. "You think I'm stupid, Junior?" Bumpy set his coffee down gently. "You think I didn't notice the Bronx money stopped? You think Stephanie didn't tell me about your little debt story?" Junior's bodyguards shifted. Bumpy didn't move. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to that retirement party tomorrow night. You're going to stand in front of 400 people, and you're going to apologize to the Queen." Junior laughed, nervous, forced. Or what? Bumpy stood up slowly. He buttoned his jacket, straightened his fedora. "Or I'll do what I should have done in 1938, let Dutch's man finish the job." He walked past Junior, close enough to whisper, "See you tomorrow night." And then he was gone. Junior stood there, heart pounding, trying to look unbothered in front of his crew, but his hands were shaking. August 17th, 9:22 p.m., St. Nick's Arena. The boxing venue was packed. 400 people, Harlem's elite, policy bankers, jazz musicians, city councilmen who looked the other way for the right price. Tables groaned under platters of ribs, collard greens, cornbread. A three-piece jazz band played in the corner. Cognac flowed. This was supposed to be Stephanie St. Clair's coronation, and retirement rolled into one. Junior had planned it that way. He'd invited everyone who mattered, set up a signing table at center stage where Stephanie would voluntarily hand over her Manhattan operations. He'd even had contracts drawn up by a crooked lawyer. All legal, all clean. Except Bumpy Johnson had other plans. 9:30 p.m. Stephanie arrived. She wore a midnight blue gown, diamonds at her throat, head high. The crowd parted for her. She walked to the VIP table ringside, the best seat in the house, and sitting next to her empty chair, calm as Sunday morning, was Bumpy, wearing the same gray suit from the fire, straight razor tucked in his boot. Stephanie sat. Bumpy leaned over, whispered something. She nodded. 9:45 p.m. Junior made his entrance, cream suit, bodyguards, the Lucchese envelope visible in his jacket pocket, proof of his new allegiance. He walked through the crowd like a king, shaking hands, laughing loud. He spotted Stephanie at the VIP table, spotted Bumpy beside her. His smile faltered for half a second. Then he recovered, walked straight toward them. The jazz band faded. Conversations quieted. Everyone sensed it. Something was about to happen. Junior stopped at their table. "Madame St. Clair, "You look beautiful tonight." Stephanie said nothing. "I've got the contracts ready. Whenever you're ready to make it official, we can—" "Sit down, Junior." Bumpy's voice, quiet, commanding. Junior looked at him. "This is between me and the Queen, Bumpy." "I said sit down." Junior's bodyguards moved closer, hands inside jackets. Bumpy didn't even glance at them. He was staring at Junior. That empty stare. Junior sat, slowly. "You owe the Queen an apology," Bumpy said. Junior forced a laugh. "For what?" "For stealing $300,000, for burning her counting house, for thinking she was weak enough to let you get away with it." The crowd was dead silent now. Junior looked around, 400 eyes watching. He licked his lips. "I don't know what lies she's been feeding you, but—" Stephanie spoke for the first time. Her voice cut like glass. "You gave my routes to the Italians." Junior went pale. "You told them which cops I paid, where my cash houses were, and then you burned my business to force me out." She leaned forward. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Junior stood up fast, chair scraped. "This is ridiculous. I'm not going to sit here and—" Bumpy stood faster, and when he did, the entire room saw it. The straight razor, not drawn, just visible, tucked in his belt. The same razor that had ended men in the 30s. The same razor that had become legend. Junior saw it too. His mouth went dry. "Sit down." Bumpy's voice barely above a whisper. Junior sat. Bumpy looked at the crowd. Junior Reyes betrayed the woman who gave him everything, betrayed me, betrayed Harlem, and he thought he could walk into this room, make her sign contracts, and pretend he earned what he stole. He looked back at Junior. "Stand up." Junior didn't move. "Stand up, or I'll drag you up." Junior stood, legs shaking. Bumpy nodded to someone in the crowd, a janitor near the light panel. The man nodded back. Then Bumpy looked at another man near the balcony, one of Stephanie's old runners. The man held a bucket. Oil. This was the trap. Bumpy spoke loud enough for everyone. "You wanted a spectacle, Junior. You wanted 400 witnesses, so here's your spectacle." The lights cut. Complete darkness. Screams. The oil bucket dumped from the balcony, splashed the floor around Junior's table. His bodyguards panicked, drew guns, slipped on the slick floor. One fired wild. Bullet hit the ceiling. Plaster rained. Chaos. And in that chaos, Bumpy moved. He knew the arena, had fought here in the 30s, knew every corner, every shadow. Junior's bodyguards couldn't see, but Bumpy could. First bodyguard went down, knee shattered by Bumpy's boot. Didn't need the razor for him. Second bodyguard swung blind. Bumpy ducked, let him slip on oil, crash into a table. Third fired toward sound, hit his own man. Friendly fire, screaming, 90 seconds of hell. Then the lights came back, 5 bodyguards on the ground, broken bones, blood, unconscious, and Junior, standing center ring, pants soaked with oil and piss, hyperventilating. Bumpy behind him. Razor pressed to his throat. The crowd erupted, not in fear, in awe. Bumpy spoke into Junior's ear, but loud enough for the front tables to hear. "I could kill you right now. Nobody here would stop me. Half of them would help." Junior was crying. "Please, Bumpy, please. I'm sorry. I'll leave. I'll disappear. Just don't." "I'm not going to kill you, Junior." Bumpy's voice almost gentle. "I'm going to mark you." He sliced, one quick line across Junior's left cheek. Not deep, just enough to scar. Just enough that every person who ever saw Junior's face would know. Junior screamed. Blood ran down his cream suit, dripping onto the oil-slicked floor. Bumpy stepped back, folded the razor, tucked it away. He looked at Stephanie. She stood, walked to Junior, looked him in the eye. "The banks stay mine until I choose to pass them. You get nothing. You are nothing. And if I ever see your face in Harlem again, Bumpy won't be this merciful." She turned to the crowd. "Let this be a lesson. Debts in Harlem aren't paid with fire. They're carved into your soul." The crowd erupted into applause. Junior collapsed. Someone dragged him out. His bodyguards limped after him. The jazz band started playing again. Within minutes, it was like nothing happened. Except everyone knew. Everyone saw. And by morning, every street corner in Harlem, every policy bank, every after-hours club would be talking about the night Bumpy Johnson carved justice into a traitor's face. August 18th, 10:00 a.m. Junior Reyes was on a Greyhound bus to Philadelphia, face bandaged, cream suit ruined, the Lucchese envelope he'd carried so proudly, left on the arena floor, trampled, forgotten. Tommy Lucchese got a phone call that morning, from Bumpy. The conversation lasted 4 minutes. "Your boy failed. Harlem's not for sale. Pull your people north of 110th Street, or the next message won't be a phone call. It'll be a body." Lucchese pulled his operations. Within a week, every Italian-connected policy bank in Harlem shut down quietly. No war, no retaliation, just fear and respect. 3 months later, Stephanie St. Clair officially retired. She didn't sign her empire over to Junior. She deeded it to Bumpy Johnson, the man who'd protected her for 15 years, the man who understood that power wasn't about violence. It was about timing, strategy, and knowing exactly how far to push before mercy became weakness. The story of Junior's scar became legend. Old-timers still tell it, how Bumpy didn't need an army, didn't need speeches. He walked into a packed arena, faced 6 armed men, and with 1 razor and 400 witnesses, he reminded everyone who really ran Harlem, not the Italians, not the traitors, Bumpy Johnson. And he did it the same way he'd done everything since 1933. 3 steps ahead. Always. You can lock a man up. You can steal his money. You can burn his friend's empire. But you can't take his mind. And you can't win a war against someone who treats every fight like a chess match. Junior learned that. So did Lucchese. So did every man who ever thought Bumpy Johnson's legend was just talk. August 17th, 1947. 400 people watched a queen reclaim her throne and a king carve a lesson into flesh. That's not just power, that's legacy. If this story of loyalty, betrayal, and razor-sharp justice hit you, hit that subscribe button. We're telling the real stories of Harlem's protector, the moments that made Bumpy Johnson untouchable. Drop a like if you understand that respect isn't given. It's earned through blood and strategy. Comment below. Would you have let Junior walk out alive? And turn on notifications because next time we're telling the story of how Bumpy Johnson walked into a Nation of Islam meeting unarmed and walked out with Malcolm X's respect. You don't want to miss that. Remember, in Harlem, debts aren't paid with apologies. They're carved into your face forever.